Start with a dream and share it with some friends. The idea deepens and grows. The dream takes shape, it has form and substance. A community soon arose. A listening room, the hearing room, a place to find a home to play. A listening room, the hearing room. Express yourself and have your say. The walls are thin, sirens blare. The tables sit near folding chairs. The stage is set with paint and glue, and love went into every screw. The light shine bright on every star. They come to play from near and far. The light shine bright on every star. They come to play from near and far. A listening room, the hearing room, a place to find a home to play. A listening room, the hearing room. Express yourself and have your say. Hearing room, a listening room. You're welcome here, so have no fear. The hearing room, the hearing room. Come in, my friend, where art can bloom. And welcome to the Woodshed podcast. I'm Aaron Tornberg, and this is the November 4th edition of the Woodshed podcast. I'm here with Mike Birch. Hi, Mike. How you doing today?
Hi, Aaron. Glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
No problem, and we'll get to talking with Mike pretty soon. But first, I want to mention all the cool stuff going on at the Hearing Room, as I typically do at the show. We have on Tuesday night, that's tomorrow, the open mic. That is from 7 to 10 p.m. We have on Wednesday, Let's Have Words from 7 to 10 p.m. That's a spoken word open mic. And then Thursday, we have the Singin' Jam with Mark Alio. And the Singin' Jam is a really cool evening with all your friends and neighbors coming to play together. They put words and chords up, and you essentially have a nice little jam, and you get to do some guitar solos in turn, and it's a lot of fun. Then Friday and Saturday, it varies. You need to check our calendar for all the details on that. And then on Sunday, we have the drum circle. That's 12:30 to 1:30. We have the open mic 2 to 5. And now we have a new event every other week called the Jitterbug Jam. It's kind of an electronic open mic, but it's pretty much open-ended at this point. So come and join the guys and jam with them. Or come to my open mic 2 to 5, which is more of a song circle. Lots of good stuff going on here. And we also have a blues jam that's once a month. That's on the second Monday of the month. And then we have the third Friday bluegrass jam as well. And I've been doing Irish Night. Irish Night is the first Friday. So all those things are regular events. And for the specific events where we have performers and other people coming to do shows, that is on our website, hearingroom.net. So you should check that out. We are also looking for members always. So come down, check us out, and become a member of the Hearing Room. I'll tell you a little more about that later. And I also want to tell you about our sponsors, the Blue-Green, something like that. I meant to say Greenville, but I almost said Bluegrass because the owner of the Greenville Junction shop is really into bluegrass, so I guess I associate the two. But the Greenville Junction shop is Greenville, Greenville Junction, Junktion, shop, SHOPPE, so shoppy, actually. And Junction is spelled with a K. So JUNKTIONSHOPPE. The Greenville Junction Shop is a place with lots of household items and electronics and other great things that they have refurbished and you can repurpose to suit your needs. You get some great deals there. I've been saying that the thing I bought there was an amazing deal. It was a MacBook Pro, and I got it for way under what it was worth because it wasn't quite working, but it was almost working, and now it works. Now my son has a new MacBook Pro that's about 7 years old, but I got a really good deal on it. So, the stuff that can be used that isn't quite brand new is still amazing there. They also have furniture and other items that you can pick up. They also do estate and garage clean out. So lots of stuff going on at the Greenville Junction Shop. All right, so Mike, we're here. Tell me about you. Where did you grow up?
I've grown up a lot of places, Aaron. Started up in Quebec in Canada. My family lived about an hour and a half or so east of Montreal in what's called the Eastern Townships now. And lived there till I was about 10 years old. We moved to the United States, moved outside Boston then, and did middle school in town of Holliston, which is just west of Boston, and then moved to Cape Cod for my high school years.
Oh, cool. Where did you live in Cape Cod?
Sandwich, which was a tiny little town with less than 6,000 people during high school days. My graduating class had, trying to remember the number, something like 65 people in it. Wasn't a big class.
That's
now
small.
Sandwich has like 25,000 people living in it. But it was a small town back then. And then after high school, I went to college in Montreal for a few years, and then back to Boston, and I've lived in the Boston area ever since.
Yeah, so we have that in common because I went to college in Toronto, so up in Canada. It's a nice place. Lots of cold, but lots of beauty as well. So
yeah, Canada is a beautiful country. It's amazing how many people in the United States never visit Canada and don't really understand and know it. It's a much bigger country than the United States, if you don't include Alaska, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I live in New Hampshire. Just north of there is Canada, so it's really an easy ride. Mm-hmm. And where did you live in Montreal? Like
I lived right downtown in the student ghetto. I went to McGill University, and my last year was in this little tiny studio apartment that was like four stairs down, sub basement. And last time I went back to Montreal, that was now like a $200,000 condo that somebody was living in. Yeah,
yeah. I actually lived in this similar apartment in Toronto. So yeah, that's a thing I think they had for a while in Canada was the basement apartment. Students would live there, and people would rent out their basement, and so you wouldn't get a lot of light, but other than that, it was a great deal. So.
Yeah, and kind of protected you from the snow as the banks built up outside the windows, too.
Right, that's true. Got a cozy little place underground.
Right.
So you were in Canada, then you moved to Cape Cod, and then you went back to Canada to Montreal to go to school. And then how did you get into music in that time span?
Music actually was started for me seriously when I was, I guess, when I turned 15 years old. I'd wanted a guitar ever since seeing the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show when I was 7 years old. My parents were always saying, no guitar for you. You have to work and do something real to make money. And when I turned 15, my grandfather, who was always a big supporter of me, gave me $40 and said, here, use this to buy a guitar. And in 1971, $40 got a good beginner guitar. So my mother drove us to the only music shop on Cape Cod at the time. There was only one back then. And I bought a $40 Aria acoustic guitar. And that was my start of music.
Do you still have it?
No, I traded it with a friend who owed me some money, and I traded it for an Epiphone, which I still have to this day. It's my campfire guitar.
Yeah.
And within a year or so, I taught myself guitar. I taught myself to play piano at the same time on my father's grand piano. And then I bought a 1972 Telecaster, brand new from EU Wurlitzer in downtown Boston. And I still have that Telecaster, too.
Right.
And started playing in a band, a high school band. During college days, the music kind of slipped by me. I was busy doing college stuff, studying and partying. And
as college kids are wont to do.
Right. So after I graduated Boston University, I met up with some guys where I worked and started a band that we did classic rock covers. And we were a house band at a place in Somerville for a year or so. And when I moved north here to Methuen, where I live now, I kind of got out of music again and kind of let it sit. And the guitars only got picked up every once in a while, maybe once a month. And then, I don't know, something hit me. Maybe it was turning a little bit older. All of a sudden the music started coming back. I felt like playing more, and I started playing more. And my wife helped me a lot. She bought me a device that let me plug my electric guitar, into the computer. And it had all the special effects, the fuzz boxes and the
Nice.
delays and reverbs and all that stuff right in the computer. So I no longer had to plug into that big old amp that was sitting in my spare bedroom, not getting much use. And that kind of sparked me too. And then she bought me a keyboard. And so all of a sudden I had something to play with. And music just kind of started blossoming back out of me at that point. Yeah.
That's great. So when you said you got a Telecaster, were you more into bands at that point? And
I was very much into rock and roll. I was into the louder rock and roll, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, any of that stuff. But at the same time, another part of me really felt drawn to the more acoustic type of music.
Right.
I loved Crosby, Stills, and Nash. I loved Neil Young's acoustic work.
Right.
So it was a dichotomy. It was two different things, and I was pulled both ways. And I think that I probably couldn't meld the two together very well back then because they didn't really join together too well in those days. And so that probably hampered me from moving further at that time, because I was pulled both ways. I love the loud rock, but I love the acoustic stuff.
Yeah, I think there's a connection. I mean, I've talked about this with a number of guests, including notably Danielle Moralia was talking about how she was really into heavy metal and then became more into the singer-songwriter stuff. She still does a lot of blues, but me too. I was into Iron Maiden, and it starts with Led Zeppelin, and then you get into the harder stuff. And I was really hardcore Iron Maiden, and then I didn't like Ozzy back in the 80s, but I liked him later. I liked Black Sabbath and Deep Purple. My first concert was Deep Purple. What was your first?
My first concert, real rock concert, would have been the band Mountain.
Oh, yeah.
Mississippi Queen, Nantucket Sleigh Ride. They played played in Hyannis at what was I think it was at the Sheridan, but it was the Hyannis Racquetball Club. So they basically filled up this big indoor racquetball court. It was like multiple courts inside, like a big gymnasium. They filled it up with a big, huge stage and rows of chairs. And then when Mountain came, the stage was literally filled from stage to the ceiling with amplifiers.
They were loud.
They were very loud. And when they hit their first opening songs, I think the first 4 or 5 rows of audience members kind of got blown backwards from the loudness of it. So that was my first concert. And it probably was only my second or third concert that I saw Deep Purple in Boston on Boston Common. They played the Sunset Series right when Machine Head came out, Smoke on the Water, and all those songs.
So you saw that era. I didn't see them until Perfect Strangers when they came out in the 84, I think, or something like that.
Different version of Deep Purple.
Yeah. Well, it was the same guys. That actually was when Ian Gillan came back, because I think they were without him for a few years. And it was funny when you look at those bands. They just traded lead singers constantly. I think Ian Gillan was in Black Sabbath at one point, I think, and Ozzy was in different bands. I mean, they're all just moving around. But that was a fun era to listen to heavy metal. What are some other bands you liked?
Back in those days, I was very limited. Living in Sandwich on Cape Cod, we could barely pick up Boston radio stations, FM stations when they started. And so you were kind of limited on what you heard, but in high school days, I saw Jethro Tull, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Jay Giles Band, Alice Cooper. I loved Alice Cooper. David Bowie. I saw David Bowie on his first U.S. tour, the Spiders from Mars tour.
Wow!
So I liked a wide variety of rock and roll, but it was the rock. It was definitely the rock. It was all electric, pretty much. The stuff that I listened to.
So when you got into the softer stuff, you said it was Neil Young. What is it?
Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Yeah.
What I've learned later in life is what really attracts me most to the acoustic music that I like is emotion. Mm-hmm. Is the singer, the player, putting their emotion into the songs, and that's what attracts me. If I hear a song that doesn't have emotion in it, I just kind of tune out sometimes. So,
right.
And there are so many talented players out there, and some don't really put themselves into the song to my ears at least, and other ones just attract me right away.
Yeah, it's interesting. Do you play any of their stuff?
I do occasionally. I do a lot of cover songs at open mics. Mm-hmm. I play, and occasional gigs. I'll do other cover songs by people, and it's sometimes intimidating to try to play somebody else's song that they do so well,
right?
Because you get compared, obviously.
Do you know the song "Hurt"? But Johnny Cash did it. And it was really powerful. So I was wondering if you knew that one, because that one I was just listening to. It's very strong emotionally. Mm-hmm. But it's by 9 Inch Nails. But then Johnny Cash did it as folk. So it's kind of how we're talking about the connection between like hard rock and emotion and folk. There is one, because Johnny Cash isn't like a hard rocker, but he did that song in a very emotional way, very spare. And 9 Inch Nails, it was kind of spare too. So there's a connection. Those power ballads are almost folk music.
And Johnny Cash was incredibly stoic on stage, but he put such emotion into his songs when he was singing. He didn't have to jump around or move around a lot, but you could just feel the emotion he put into his songs.
Yeah, it's a good song. You should check it out. "Hurt." It's by Trent Reznor, 9 Inch Nails, but then Johnny Cash covered it, and there's a whole story and a video Johnny Cash did that was amazing. It's one of his last things he did. So why don't we hear a song? We'll just leave it to you. What do you want to play?
Well, okay, something old or something new?
Something blue.
Something. So a couple years ago, I visited Alaska with my wife. Went on vacation there. Another incredible place, just like Canada. Alaska is so different. If you've never traveled up to Alaska, it's a whole nother world from New England, where I've lived most of my life in this area. Just incredibly beautiful. I took hundreds and hundreds of pictures while I was there, and music, quite honestly, never even entered my mind the whole time I was up there, because I was just enjoying visually and just spiritually the whole place. So when I got back here, that suggested, well, you saw all this beautiful stuff, wouldn't it be a good idea to write a song about it? So I wrote this song based upon my visit to Denali National Park.
Oh, wow.
Which is just a gorgeous area. It's very remote. It's 6 hours from Anchorage, which is the main city in Alaska.
Right.
And to get into the park, you can only drive a few miles yourself by private vehicle into the park. After that, you have to take a shuttle bus, which takes you 50 or 60 or further miles into the park. And just the whole drive is just one beautiful vista after another. There's wildlife everywhere. Mm-hmm. And so I got the idea for this song, which is called Cassandra Climbs the Mountain. Just a totally fictitious story that I wrote based upon just visiting Alaska, and it happened to be that the shuttle bus driver, when I took the bus into the park, her name was Cassie. So that's where the name came from. But it is a fictitious story just based on that, and this is on my most recent album, Love and War.
Okay.
Young Cassie felt different from others. like she was day and they were night. She was always in colors, and they were black and white. A town lying in shadows, people only half awake. Cassie's searching for rainbows. To get away, she'll do whatever it takes. When Cassandra climbs a mountain, she is one with all she sees. Earth, air, and water, animals, birds, and trees. One night, Cassie followed a star's call. Through a forest, she ran as if chased. Sunrise found her above all, on a mountain in a magic place. When Cassandra climbs the mountain, she is one with all she sees. Earth, air, and water, animals, birds, and trees. Cassandra realized that happiness wasn't just a dream. Right before her eyes, she became the mountain's queen. Cassandra climbs the mountain. She is one with all she sees. Earth, air, and water, animals, birds, and trees. Cassandra up on her mountain, Cassandra up on her mountain. Thank you.
Nice job. I like that one. I actually remember that from your album. You gave everybody a copy of your album at that open mic on your birthday when I was there. When was that?
That would have been this past May.
This May, yeah. So
Yep.
that was good. So the album, that's pretty new.
Yeah, I released it last year in 2018.
Okay. And you told me before you recorded all that yourself.
Yeah,
right?
I have a little home studio. I record, do everything myself, do all the musical parts myself, do all the vocals myself, and mix it myself, master it myself, do it. Jack of all trades, expert in none. You know, so.
And you said something interesting because I never really thought of doing this, but you actually hired people through the internet to play some of the parts on the album, and then you mixed that in.
I did that on a previous album.
Oh, a previous one.
On a previous album, yeah. I've met some people. There's so much information online these days that you can become overwhelmed by everything that's there. One of the places that I've used when it comes to recording myself at home is a website called homerecording.com. It's just a forum that's populated by dozens and dozens and maybe hundreds of other home recordists. Some of these guys are experts who actually have full studios that people come in and pay them to do their work. Right. And other people are just people like you and I who do their recording in the spare room in their house. And it's given me a lot of knowledge, and you get a lot of feedback from people and ways to improve your recording. And it's a real learning experience. But through that site, I met a drummer who I never met in person, but is local here, lives in the Lowell area, and asked him if he would do some drum tracks for me on some of my songs, and they were the more rock type songs rather than the acoustic songs.
Right.
And he recorded all the drums to my basic tracks that I sent to him, and then he sent those tracks back with the drums, and I mixed them with my music.
That's really cool. I never had thought about that. But for those listening who do that, that's another idea to throw into your knapsack of ideas to record.
And there are a lot of people out there who will be glad to collaborate with you and do that type of music when you're writing songs. Not everybody can play multiple instruments, but if you can record yourself with whatever instrument you have to give somebody else an idea of what the song might be, then you can work with these people and really develop your songs to a more full level rather than just you with a guitar and a voice, or you with a keyboard and a voice. Yeah.
Right. That is cool. And where did you pick up the skills to do the recording?
Basically just self-learned. My recording goes way back to the right after college days when my original recording that I was doing with the band that I was playing in, I was writing a lot of songs and trying to demo them for the band so the band could learn them. And none of us wrote or read music, so it was all by ear. And so I had a couple of cassette recorders. One was a boom box with built-in microphones. So I would play my first tracks and sing, first guitar part and sing the first part, recording onto the cassette recorder, and then I'd pull the cassette out of that and put it in my cassette player in my stereo system, so then that sound would come through the stereo speakers, and I'd put another cassette into the boom box, and then record another track with the sound coming through the PA system from the first track, and then record the other part, another harmony or another guitar part, and I would do that like 3 or 4 times until the sound was a bloody mess, and then that would be the demo that the band would get. So that was my first really effort into recording. When we tried recording the band during live practices, we didn't have the right equipment to do it, and it always sounded really loud. It sounded really distorted. It never sounded good doing that. But at least I could do my demos for the band, and then we could play the songs in the band. So it was only after many years that I finally got a little multi-track digital recorder, a Boss BR600, and I recorded my first album on the little digital recorder, which will let you record multiple tracks, but you can only mix 8 or 6 tracks at a time. And so I recorded my first album that way, and then I moved into the computer world, where all of a sudden this light goes off that like this is the way to do it in today's world. You have so many options recording on the computer that you don't have any other way other than going to a professional studio and letting somebody else do it for you at $50 or more an hour. And I didn't have the money to be able to afford a studio for the hours and hours of work that I knew would be needed to record my songs. So I basically just learned by doing it.
And you never got into the Tascam 4-track cassette or anything like that?
I always wanted one back in those days. I just never had the money to buy one.
Yeah, see, I had a place you could rent them. And so I would rent one, record, and then mix it down and give it back. And that worked for a little while. I have a bunch of cassettes that are really poorly mixed that's from that day. But that's really cool. It's you learned how to do it and then just did it. That's
right. And like I said, the homerecording.com forums are a great place to learn techniques. People say, "Oh, this is wrong with your recording," or you could do this and do that, and make suggestions on how to improve your recording and the mixing. Yeah.
Did you ever go to a studio and actually try to record in studio?
I have visited studios, but I never did any recording in them. It wasn't within my budget. Yeah.
Right. It's not within most people's budget.
I applaud the performers out there who save their money up and do that to record their music. It's not cheap. I mean, it's there's a lot of great studios in the New England area, and especially a lot of them are set up for singer-songwriters and with producers, people who own the studios and work at the studios who can add tracks to your music. But again, it's not cheap. You have to do a lot of gigs to pay for it.
That's true. But more and more you can record at home like you are. And, I now record this podcast on my own equipment. I mean, for example, and I never would have been able to do that in, the 90s or 2000s but now, it's not a problem.
Right, and it's the same gear, same techniques. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's about time for another song. You got one?
Oh, sure. So I'll go back to it. This is a real old one. The band that I was in the mid 80s was some guys that I worked with, a bass player, a drummer, and a rhythm guitarist asked me to join them. We practiced in first winter. We practiced in the drummer's basement, which was unheated. They'd put some plastic sheets up around the practice area, and we had a little tiny heater that ran in the corner, and you'd warm up your fingers between songs there because it was so cold in the basement in the winter. But the band was named Jillian, which was the drummer's new baby's name. So we had T-shirts printed up that said Jillian the band, not the baby. And we played for a few years in the Somerville area, and when I started writing more songs at that time, we were a cover band. We did a lot of classic rock covers. But I started writing songs, and the drummer wrote a couple songs, and the bass player was writing songs. So we started adding originals to it. And this is, I think, about the third song that we did in the band. And when I wrote it, I was still really into the rock and roll, the electric type of stuff. And the style that I wrote this one in was very similar to the Stompers, who were very big in Boston at the time, Sal Baglio and his band. And the Stompers are still around playing, which is, I think it's great that they're still making rock and roll after all this time. So this is called She Stole My Heart. Here she comes down the street, looking so tough, walking real proud, strutting her stuff. She don't even know how much I love her so. She stole my heart, but she don't know. She's looking so good, like a royal queen, moving so smooth, like a well-oiled machine. She don't even see how much she means to me. She stole my heart right away from me. She stole my heart, she stole my heart. She stole it right away from me. She stole my heart, she stole my heart right away from me. She's looking so cool, even in the heat, swaying to her own invisible beat. She's so fine, I've got to make her mine. She stole my heart, but I don't mind. She stole my heart, she stole my heart. She stole it right away from me. She stole my heart, she stole my heart right away from me. She stole my heart, she stole my heart. She stole my heart right away from me. She stole my heart, she stole my heart. She stole my heart right away from me. She stole my heart, she stole my heart. She stole my heart right away from me.
That's great. That's sounds. I can hear the '60s in there.
It was definitely the Stompers have that kind of a sound. It's basic rock and roll, and that's the kind of sound I just went for on that particular song. When I write songs, I tend to think of my influences and what started me writing a particular style of song.
Right. That's interesting though. That you got both things going there. You got the singer-songwriter, but also the rock and roll. See, my stuff tends not to be as much upbeat like that. So that's great that you have that range. What do you do to write songs? How do you start usually?
For me, the songs always start with the lyrics. It's always been that way. I write the lyrics first. I get an idea, usually a hook. I find the best way that I can write a song is I get a hook first. I hear a phrase or something sparks something in my head and think, oh, that might work for a song. So I get the hook first typically. If I don't, it makes it a lot more difficult to complete the song. Because if I get the hook, that's going to be the part that catches your ear, catches the listener's ear, and it becomes part of the chorus. So it's the tricky part in the chorus that people remember. So once I've got that hook, then I can build the song around that. What's the story of the song? So I write the lyrics first, and usually I just scribble them down by hand on a piece of papers, whatever paper's around, I'll write them down, bring them home, and they may sit there on my desk, on my music desk for weeks, months, years sometimes. And then one day I'll pick up guitar and start noodling and putting chords together and go, oh, I like the way that sounds. I wonder if I have lyrics that will fit that. And then I'll go through the pile of lyric sheets and go, no, that doesn't work for that. And then I'll find a lyric that could work, and then I'll keep working on the music and the lyrics and adjust and rewrite them both to make them fit together. That's the typical way I write a song. Sometimes I'll write the lyrics and I've got music playing in my head already for it. So it's a matter of getting home, grabbing the guitar, or sitting down at the keyboard and just trying to figure out what was in my head then. But that's the normal way I write songs. There are songwriters I know who get out there who write the music first and sing la-di-das. Well, they've got a melody in mind, but they just sing la-di-das and then fit lyrics to the music they write. And I applaud those writers who can do that. I find my lyrics don't have any meaning when I try it that way, because for me, the lyrics are important in songs. For some people, their lyrics are not as important as the overall music, the melodies, etc. But for me, I need those lyrics to mean something to me personally.
Right. So it's like you're writing poetry first and then setting it to music.
Right,
so,
exactly. Yeah.
I've done that with other things. Like I did Shakespeare. I took some of his words and I put them to music. But I tend to do it kind of like you're saying. It kind of comes together in one fell swoop. Like I'm looking for a word, but it has to have the melody in order for me to be able to find it, So, yeah, it's different people do it different ways. I know that you've seen a lot of it because you've been working with Tammy Jan at the Nashua Library doing the Songwriters Group.
Yeah, every month we meet once a month, the third Saturday of every month in Nashua at the public library. And it's called Songwriters of New Hampshire Group, SONG for short. And it's a free service that we give to people. The library lets us use the room once a month. And there's free parking at the library. And we get songwriters at all levels. We get people who show up who just wrote their first song ever. We get people who show up, don't even have lyrics, they just have some music. We have lyric writers who show up and can't play any instruments, and they'll just sing-song their lyrics for us. So we sit around in a circle, in a songwriter circle, and everybody demos their song for the rest of the group, and then the rest of the group gives suggestions and critiques to the song to make the songs better. And I found that my first 3 albums that I wrote, I didn't have that kind of input, which is typical for songwriters. Songwriters tend to be very alone and by themselves mostly, and you're writing your songs by yourself in a room by yourself, and you put the whole song together, and if you're lucky you record it or you start playing it out at gigs, and the song's locked in your head at that point. It's done. You're not going to change that song because you start playing it and that's the way you know it. And I found after the fact that I get people coming up to me, hey, did you ever think about doing this in that song, adding a pre-chorus or adding a lead or whatever it is? And like, well, great. Why didn't you tell me that when I was writing it? And so I found that, getting feedback at the initial stage of writing is really beneficial, because people will hear things that myself as a songwriter don't necessarily hear because I'm too emotionally attached to the lyrics and the song as I'm writing it. And somebody will say, well, that doesn't make any sense. And I look at the lyrics and go, it makes sense to me. But if it doesn't make sense to your audience, then you've lost the impact of the song. So getting feedback at that initial writing stage before I've recorded, I found so beneficial. And I think it's benefited my songwriting, that my songwriting has developed because of that. And there are a lot of online places where people can do the same type of thing, but I think it's really great to get a face-to-face with people and get that initial feedback on the music as you're writing it.
Oh, that's good. you ever come to the hearing room for the songwriters that they have here?
I have come. I think once or twice I've come to the Saturday meeting for that.
Yeah, because they do that here too. But I've been to yours, and it was fun.
Yep.
It's so you can. It's pretty easy, like you said, to get into the Nashua Library, and you just sit around with the other songwriters and share your stuff. And what's the rule? You have to bring in 3 copies, or how many copies?
We get anywhere from like 4 to 5 people to as many as a dozen or more people any particular month. So the idea is, bring copies of your lyrics so people can follow along. We don't sing along or play along. We just read along on your lyrics. Some people don't bother reading. They just want to listen to you do the songs. But it's easier, I think, to follow along on a song when you can read the lyrics to understand what they're saying. And as they go through a song the first time you've ever heard it, if you can read along, you can read what the story is, what they're singing about. So you bring as many copies as you can. There's obviously copy machines at the library to make copies if necessary, and and people will share copies and look over each other's shoulders. But it's just an easy way for everybody to be able to look at it, and people can write notes on your lyric sheets, with suggestions that they have. And we often at the song groups will suggest a prompt or a cue or something to write a song the next time. And that's another great way, because sometimes as a songwriter, you get stuck. You get just, that writer's block that you just can't, not happy with anything that you're scribbling down or anything you're playing. And sometimes a prompt will give you that inspiration to come back the next month and say, hey, here's the song I wrote for that prompt.
Right.
And I found, that's a great way to get past the writer's block thing that all writers experience at some time or other.
Right. And having the support of other songwriters around, that doesn't hurt either.
No, definitely not. And this community, this area of New England, north of Boston and New Hampshire, has so many great songwriters. And, the people that you have on this podcast on a regular basis,
right.
Just there's so many good songwriters around, too.
Right. It's really easy to find people to come on the podcast in this area, because there's so many great people who can come on and talk about what they do. And is there a particular song that you, at the Nashua thing, somebody had suggested something that you changed?
For sure. I have one song that I actually wrote back in high school. I started writing songs a month after I started playing guitar. I only knew like 3 chords, but that didn't matter. I started writing songs. So I think for most songwriters, it's something inherent, something inside you that you need to be able to create art.
Right.
Some people create paintings and some people create literary works. For songwriters, we need to create songs. We need to create music that way. And so I wrote a song back in my high school days, and I recorded it the first time with my little Boss digital recorder for my first album, and I didn't like the way it came out, so I didn't put it on the first album. So then when I started recording on the computer, I recorded it again. Basically didn't change the song, but now that I had the computer with literally infinite number of tracks that you can do, you record as many tracks as you want. And by that time, I had built up a nice selection of instruments, guitars and things. And I decided, this will be really great at the end of the song if I just have, the song started out with just 2 acoustic guitars. If at the end of the song, I can just have more instruments come in. So I started recording 2 tracks with each guitar that I had. So by the time I was done, I had like 18 tracks of guitars. And the sound kind of degraded a little bit too much, because it was just, if you think of my Mike Oldfield's theme song, Tubular Bells from the Exorcist movie, where instruments keep coming in, and it's a great feature. But if you ever listen to Tubular Bells, like by the time it gets halfway through the song and you've got the 20th different instrument coming in, you can't hear the first ones that were playing anymore. And that was the problem with that song. So the song didn't make it onto my second album either. And then my third album, which was called Empty Pages and Lost Songs, I said, well, this is definitely one of my lost songs.
Yeah.
I need to do something with it. And I had actually demoed the song at a songwriting group, that a songwriting session that had happened at E.J. Willette's music studio in Amesbury. Robin Lane had led a songwriting class there one day, and I brought the song to that. And it was still the way it was, original version of it. And I got some comments about it, and I was like, okay. And so finally, when I brought the song to the Songwriters of New Hampshire group, because I still wasn't happy with it. Something was wrong with the song. I just couldn't figure out what was wrong with it.
Right.
So I brought it to the group, and I played it, and right away I got comments. Well, this is what's wrong with it. Every song you write, you always make sure you have some type of a rhyme scheme. And I admit that I try not to use the same rhyme scheme every song, but what was missing from this song is there was no rhymes in the verses. Mm-hmm. And that's why it didn't sound right to me. I didn't have those rhymes there. So I got some suggestions on changing a couple of the lines in the chorus, etc., and changing them to rhymes, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, now it makes sense. And so I recorded it with just 2 guitar parts, I think, maybe a third lead guitar part at the end. And but so this song goes back to I wrote originally when I was like 16 or 17 years old.
All right, what's it called?
It's called Once in a While.
Okay.
Once in a while, I like to sit by myself and think of you. It took me a while to realize you're a part of all I do. But then, when we're together again, it makes me feel so good. Oh, I hope it'll never end. I'd make time stand still if I could. You came into my life when I needed you most. You made my life fresh again. Oh, I want you to know that when we're together again, make me feel so good. Oh, I hope it'll never end. I'd make time stand still if I could. Once in a while, I like to sit by myself and think of you. Once in a while, I like to sit by myself and think of you. Once in a while. Once in a while, once in a while, once in a while.
Very nice. So we'll get back to talking to Mike in a little bit. I did want to come in here and mention, because it's the middle of the show, that we have lots of stuff going on at the Hearing Room, and we are looking to get 200 members by February. So if you can check us out online at hearingroom.net, you can find out more about membership. But basically, you are helping support the Hearing Room if you become a member. It's $100 per year. And you get a lot of things from it, but primarily it's that the Hearing Room continues to exist and provide a space for local musicians to come and perform and share their music with everybody locally. So we would appreciate you just checking us out and seeing if that's for you. It's hearingroom.net, and it helps support us for the whole year. So please check that out. Also, we want to mention Greenville Junction Shop. That's Greenville, Greenville, Junction, Junction, Shoppe, Shoppe, Greenville Junction Shop. You can find them on Facebook right now. They will have a website coming up in the next few weeks or months. And the stuff that they have there is great. It's furniture, clothing. They have little gadgets, electronic things, different things that you might want, and bigger things too. I saw they had a lighting board and a receiver and, so all kinds of interesting stuff you can find there. And you can check them out on Facebook. They announce some of that stuff and put it on Marketplace and things like that. But you should check them out, Greenville Junction Shop. And that's JUNKTIONSHOPPE. And they are located in Greenville, New Hampshire, and Clinton, Massachusetts. So if you want to check them out online, that would be much appreciated because they are big supporters of the Hearing Room and of this podcast. So please go to their Facebook page, and when they have it, go to their website, and you can check it out. So they also, by the way, do cleanup. So they will clean out your garage with you. Or for you. I'm not sure how that works. You got to check out with them. And also they'll help, if you got a room to clean out, things like that. They do that service as well. So, all right, we're back with Mike Birch. And Mike, we've been talking a lot about music and the different things that you have done musically. What's your day job?
I do product technical support for the biggest gas company. We're talking not gasoline, but gas, as in nitrogen, oxygen, those things that we breathe. Biggest gas company, basically in the United States, probably the world now. Airgas division of Air Liquide. So I provide product technical support for the gases, mixed gases, the equipment, and everything else. So that's what keeps the roof over my head. But I do music for fun and for profit too. I run an open mic every other week in Methuen at Muddy Waters Restaurant and Pub, which is a small family-owned restaurant where we get people up to play their songs. We get local kids, high school kids who come in with their parents, and we get some of the old timers in the area and some of the great songwriters that appear here in the podcast and do shows here at the Hearing Room. Right.
It's a good hangout. I've been to the Muddy Waters one. And I should get to the other one you've got isn't happening till March, but
also with Tammy Jan, who runs the songwriting group with me, also hosting an open mic up in Nashua. We just had one this past Saturday. Oh, they're not coming to get me.
No, not for you.
And that's when we're going to be taking the winter off from that one in Nashua, but it'll be picking up again the last Saturday of March and April and May. At this point, we've got scheduled. And always looking to, if you know of a venue that's looking for an open mic host, please give me a call.
Okay. There's lots of open mics going on around. It's a great way to spend your time. There are some people I know who just jump around from open mic to open mic and go out like every night of the week.
And you certainly can. I mean, I think there's probably an open mic just about 7 nights a week somewhere in the greater area around here in the Merrimack Valley area. What I love about open mics is meeting all the different players in the area, and you get people who are new to playing and people who've been doing it for decades. And I love encouraging younger people who come to the open mics. I wish I'd had that kind of encouragement and that type of a venue to play when I was learning. Open mics didn't really exist back in the 70s and early 80s. There were, I guess, coffee houses and places like that, but that wasn't the kind of situation that was around anywhere where I was, and wasn't what I was looking for at the time. But it was always the band situation back in those days.
Right.
And, but now, I mean, I just hear so many talented people of all ages coming to these open mics, and it's great to get somebody who's there for their first time to play in front of an audience and encouraging them and seeing them come back and watching them grow and develop over time. I've seen people come in hesitant, nervous, shaking about playing, making mistakes, and then a couple years later you see them, they're playing small concerts in places and opening for bigger acts. And it's really pleasurable to know that I've encouraged those talents to come forth. Yeah.
Right, and you've been doing that for a while.
I've been running the Muddy Waters open mic for over a year now, and I've run some other open mics in Nashua and in Dracut, and always looking to do more. I host the open mic here on Tuesdays when one of the regular guys can't do it.
Yeah,
always glad to fill in here at the Hearing Room.
And so you're married too.
I am, yeah.
Do you want to tell the story of how you met your wife?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, never mind.
It's a long, convoluted story.
Well, it's another thing to talk about.
Yeah.
But do you and your wife play together at all?
No. She came out and played the cowbell on one of my songs at an open mic, but pretty much the music is a separate thing for me. It's as I wrote, songwriting is very much an alone thing. It's very hard at least for me, to write a song when there's noise around, other things are happening. I need that isolation to be able to concentrate on it. I know some people can sit there with a bunch of people and making noise in the room and put a song together in no time flat, or collaborate with other people really quickly and write songs. For me, it was always very much an alone type of thing. That I need to be able to concentrate and hear myself and not have interruptions. It's nothing like when you have a home studio and recording at home and you're halfway through a song and the phone rings.
Right. That's always a little distracting.
Yeah.
So you got another song?
Sure. This song was from another prompt at the songwriting group, and the prompt was use the title of a song that already exists, but do something completely different with that song. So right away, I had an idea for a song, and I thought of the song Crossroads, which was originally the Crossroads Blues, written by Robert Johnson. And everybody knows the Eric Clapton Cream Crossroads version. And there's multiple versions out there people have recorded over time. So I said, let me take that title, Crossroads, and make something totally different about it. And so I wrote about a crossroads, and I went back to my high school days. And when I lived in Sandwich on Cape Cod, we literally had one traffic light in town. That was it, one traffic light. Now they've got multiple traffic lights, but there was only one at the time. So I used that as my thought about the song, and then made a totally fictitious story about it and called it Crossroads. And I actually wrote this song on my baritone ukulele, so I have to make do with my guitar tonight doing it.
All right.
Grew up in a town so small, only had one traffic light. No strip malls, no neon, only stars to light the night. First time I saw you was at the corner, watching green change to red and back. Smiling at thoughts only you knew in a place so matter of fact. So many years later, memories out of the blue. Went down to the crossroads, still reminds me of you. Summer dates with the top down, parked at the edge of the road. Watching cars stop on red, wondering about when we'd get old. So many years later, memories out of the blue. Went down to the crossroads, still reminds me of you. The years went by, we drifted apart. With age comes wisdom and lots of broken hearts. Despite all the streets and boulevards, every highway, my feelings from those days won't fade away. And wherever you are, do you remember those crossroads? Said wherever you are, do you remember those crossroads? So many years later, memories out of the blue. Went down to the crossroads, still reminds me of you. Still reminds me of you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. That was great.
And all apologies to Robert Johnson.
Yeah, you don't have to apologize for that. So the local scene, you've been involved as far as I've known you since I've known you. But when did you start really getting involved with playing?
Well, that's funny because I was thinking of that today. 7.5 years ago, on my 56th birthday, I auditioned for a new Beatles band that was forming in Salem, New Hampshire. 5 other guys, all who had experience playing in Beatles-type tribute bands. And I was a little hesitant about it, but my wife said, oh, you go ahead and do it. So on my birthday, instead of going out to eat dinner or have a birthday cake or anything, I went and auditioned for this band. It was called Instant Karma, was the name of the band. And not to be confused with the Instant Karma band, who was quite famous, I guess, out in Chicago for quite a while in the 90s.
Yeah.
So there was 5 other guys in the band. There was a lead singer, bass player, drummer, a dedicated lead guitarist, and another guitarist who also played keyboards. And then they wanted me also for guitar and to play keyboards. No costumes. We didn't try to imitate the Beatles. We didn't try to make it sound just like the Beatles. Instead, we did the songs, but we tried to do the songs accurately to what the Beatles did them, but not to sound exactly like them. We tried to, same arrangements and same harmonies and everything. And it was a fantastic learning experience for me because these guys were also talented. I knew a lot of Beatles songs going way back, but these guys were experts on it, and we've worked on the harmonies. There's YouTubes you can look up to find out all the harmonies on all the Beatles songs and to learn the keyboard parts. Oh yeah, it's amazing. There's an amazing wealth of information out there, and we worked for a good 8 months or so and had like 30 to 35 songs ready to go, and then unfortunately the lead singer had other commitments and he couldn't. And just as we were ready to start booking gigs, he bowed out of the band, and we auditioned many people, and we finally found somebody who we thought would work out really well. He had a good voice, and then he said, "Oh, but I only want to sing the Paul McCartney songs. I don't want to sing the John Lennon songs."
Right.
Well, I'm sorry, but you're the lead singer. You need to sing them all. And after that, things kind of just started falling apart, and it wasn't fun anymore. And I don't remember which guy in the band said "Hey guys, this isn't fun anymore. I don't want to do this anymore."
Right, if you're not having fun.
Yeah, and so, that was kind of a big disappointment because we did a lot of work. But for me, it was a great learning experience because I worked with these very talented guys and worked on harmonies and learning multiple instruments. Just at practices, I would just bring 2 guitars, and I had 2 keyboards set up for practices. But in reality, if we were going to gig, I would have had at least 4 guitars and the 2 keyboards because you needed acoustic guitars tuned. You need one tuned with down to a D to do Yesterday, for example. And then different electric guitars for the different sounds for the different songs. So that was a disappointment. But at the same time, I had also asked to audition in an acoustic trio that was practicing down in Arlington, Massachusetts. And so I was practicing with them, and they were a trio that had a guy who played fiddle and mandolin, but he couldn't make all their gigs and all their practices and stuff, so they wanted a third person to come in and fill in. There was the leader of the band on guitar and his brother on bass, and so they wanted a third person for when the fiddle player couldn't make it. And I said, okay, I'll try it out. And they did some Celtic music and some old rock songs, done acoustically, and then a bunch of originals that the leader of the band was writing. And so I played with them for a number of months, and that was good for me as well, because I learned the softer sound, the all acoustic thing, was really what I wanted to be doing, rather than hauling around multiple guitars, amplifiers, keyboard stand, keyboards, which was a lot of work. It was much easier just to bring a guitar or maybe two guitars, and be able to plug in and play that way. That band didn't last because we weren't gigging. I was looking to gig, but while I was playing with them, we played an open mic down in Cambridge, and there wasn't a lot of sign-ups at the open mic. We were the feature at the open mic. There wasn't a lot of sign-ups, so I was sitting there and going, well, why don't I play a set of songs too?
Sure,
so I asked the host, I said, can you put my name down at the end type of thing? So that was really the first open mic that I played at solo. And when I did that, I go, hey, this is not bad. And
where was that?
This was in Cambridge.
Which one? Do you
It's
remember?
an Irish place. That
the Burren? Or?
No, it's an Irish place. I can't think of it. There's one in Newton and one in Cambridge, or it used to be. Can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, though. But so I played that one and said, oh, this is kind of fun. And I like being able to go out, have a beer or two, and play a few songs. It's easier than gigging with a whole band where you got to be on your ball for 3 hours and just do a few songs. So I started seeking out other open mics. And I found one nearby in Chelmsford that somebody actually knew from work history many years before was hosting. And I found a few others and started hitting the open mics. And it wasn't long before I said, hey, this is a lot of fun. And I saw there was a bar up in Dracut that happened to put an ad somewhere. I think it could have been Craigslist. It could have been on Facebook, looking for an open mic host. And I said, well, I've learned a little bit from the people I know at the open mics I'm going to. Right. And I said, hey, I can host your open mic. And that's what started me on that road.
That's great. So you like doing the open mic host thing too. But what are some other things that you do? I know you do open mics. I know you do the songwriters groups. Are there any other kind of musical things you work on?
Well, I've played I do a few solo gigs. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of work, and I applaud solo singer-songwriters who do multiple gigs a week, sometimes a day. Playing 2 to 3 or 4 hours by yourself is an incredibly hard task. It requires a lot of preparation, your mind has to be in the right place to do it on a consistent basis. I do a few solo shows. I've done some here at the Hearing Room. I've played partial shows with other people here at the Hearing Room. This past summer, I did a couple of farmers markets. But it's really a lot of work to play solo. So about 2 years ago, I was in an acoustic trio, and that was really enjoyable for me. I played guitar or bass for most of the songs, played keyboards on 2 songs. We had a keyboard player who played keyboards on some songs. He played the cajon, which is that drum that you sit on, and he played that, and he sang lead on most of the songs. And then we had another guitarist, and all 3 of us sang, and it was really enjoyable. We tried to keep the volume low, and we played around a lot of places around, and that's what I'm looking to try to get back into. I'd like to find either a duo or a trio type thing that I could join in, but keep it acoustic. I don't need that big loud drum kit next to me anymore on the stage. I suffer really bad tinnitus from being in loud bands and going to loud concerts for too many years without hearing protection. Mm-hmm. And I don't need those cymbals crashing in my ears anymore.
Right. So, I can imagine playing in bands, that's that drawback is you got to either put in the earplugs or lose your hearing. And Pete Townsend lost his hearing famously,
Exactly. And we didn't think about it back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s. It just never dawned on people that you needed to protect yourself. Now, these days, everybody thinks about hearing protection, and you can get earplugs everywhere you go to. Even concert venues sell them some places. And but nobody thought of it back then. And we suffered the damage. I saw Led Zeppelin in, I guess it was 73 or so, on the Song Remains the Same tour down in Providence at the Civic Center, whatever it's called now, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in the loge about 30 feet from the PA speakers, same level with the PA speakers. I was deaf in my right ear for 5 days after seeing Led Zeppelin.
Right, because that's just what you do when you go to a concert. It's like a badge of honor. Oh, well, I can't hear for the next few days, that's... But it does real damage. And my sister is actually an audiologist, she would be the first to say that. You don't want to mess with it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I learned my lesson now. When I go to concerts where I expect it's going to be loud, I have a set of earplugs in my pocket. Yeah?
Right. That's a good idea. And we keep earplugs at the hearing room for people who want that, but you rarely need it here.
The hearing room is such a great venue. The acoustics in here are so good that you don't even really need to plug in.
Right.
You can stand on the edge of the stage and sing and play, and everybody can hear you.
Right.
We obviously do use a PA here at the hearing room to balance the sound out and everything. But
right.
It's great having a venue like the hearing room, which is a listening room, where the acoustics are such that you can do that.
Right. It is a great room. There's Muddy Waters is pretty good. You got it's kind of split, so you got your area of the bar, and then you got the barfly area of the bar, where they're the people who hang out in the back and talk.
And we keep the volume at a lower level so that people can talk. That's one of the biggest drawbacks. I don't go out to nightclubs much anymore because the volume is just usually too loud. Not only loud that it hurts my ears, but it's too loud to talk.
Right.
And people go to be with other people, and if you can't even talk to each other, then you're just sitting there listening to the music. You've lost half the reason why you've gone out.
And then you have the moment where the band just quickly stops and you're screaming mid-sentence, So that's always nice too.
Yes.
All right, let's hear another song.
All right, this song, a friend of mine classified my music. People have since I started playing a lot of solo stuff, they always said, "What genre do you play?" And I kind of hate genrefying music, because with most people, what they play is a mix of their backgrounds, their influences, and it can change from song to song. So I just started. A friend of mine called my music, I think in a review he wrote on Amazon or something, he said folk. He called it folk rock. And I'd never heard that term before. And I thought, well, that's pretty good. So now when people ask me the question of what genre do you play, I give them a real screwy answer so they don't know what to say. I say, I play acoustic electric folk rock.
Yeah.
And I just get silence when I say that because they're not sure what it means. So, but what folk music was back in the 60s was, when you think of Joan Baez, Bob Dylan and stuff, they wrote songs that told stories and were moralistic, told people, you should be thinking about this type of thing. And that's what I think about with folk music, is it makes you think about something in particular. So a lot of my songs in the last few years have had that type of a theme. My most recent album, Love and War, had quite a few songs that got inspired by what was happening in the country in 2016, which we won't go into that. Everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But more recently, Neil Young posted a thing about a project that's going on right now, and it's called Amplify the Children. And their website is project-amplify.org. And you can Google Amplify the Children. But basically what it is trying to bring to light to people's minds, so they don't forget, all the children who are held in government facilities, whether they were illegal aliens coming across the borders illegally or abandoned by parents who brought them over or born to illegal aliens. And all these children are stuck in these camps and for long periods of time. We've kind of forgotten that recently with all the news that's going on politically and elsewhere about the climate and everything else. But these children are still out there. So the Amplify the Children Project actually has pages of quotes from these children who are in these detention camps, is what they basically are. And some of them are translated. Some of these children do speak English. But the project is about taking the children's words, their statements, and getting them out there to people to make people realize that this is still going on. And they're raising funds with a GoFundMe project, which you can get to from their website. But anyways, the project thing that they sent out and that Neil Young promoted was, let's use the children's words and write some music, write a play, write some other things to bring people's attention to this whole situation. So I did that. I went to the website, and it's heartbreaking to read some of these quotes from these kids, some of them who have been in these places for months and months. And so I wrote this song based on that. And there's a number of songwriters in the Boston area who are writing songs too, who are hoping to put together a fundraiser concert at some point in the future to raise money for this.
Yeah.
So this song is it's one of those songs that I actually wrote without a hook. So I started writing the words based upon the children's words on the website and string them together and add a few things here and there to make things rhyme and stuff. And I didn't have a hook. And then my friend Tammy Jan suggested the hook and became the name of the song, which is We Cry.
Okay.
I need a capo on this.
All right.
So
capo is important.
There we go. We are frightened, scared, and sad, left our homes far behind. We are uncertain of the future, don't know what we will find. We left because of the violence, no more living on the edge of a knife. We left everything we know with hope for a better life. We cry for our fathers and mothers. We cry for our sisters and brothers. We cry for our lost friends. We cry the sadness that never ends. We cry, we cry. They took us from our families, locked us in dark cages. They left us cold and hungry. They gave no explanations. We don't know if it's day or night. The lights are always on. We haven't been able to shower or wash for so very long. We cry for our fathers and mothers. We cry for our sisters and brothers. We cry for our lost friends. We cry the sadness that never ends. We cry, we cry. Children are crying and crying. The men said that they will send us back home. All our hopes and dreams are dying, dying. We are all alone. We cry for our fathers and mothers. We cry for our sisters and brothers. We cry for our lost friends. We cry the sadness that never ends. We cry, we cry. We cry. We cry.
Great.
Thank you. So remember, project-amplify.org. Check it out.
Yeah, that sounds great. I didn't know about that. So is that, you write a lot of protest songs?
Well, 2016, hate to say it, but this country was approaching civil war. If you pay attention to social media, friends, longtime friends, were fighting with each other about stuff, and it was really depressing. As a songwriter, I found that the songs that I was writing, because of what was going on, tended to be depressing somewhat. But I felt that it was important that I get my opinion out there too. I learned that you're never going to change somebody's opinion by posting something on social media.
Right.
But maybe with a song, I can open people's eyes a little more. So some of my songs were definitely protest songs. Some of them were just songs to make people hopefully stop and think.
Right. And it's important to, use music sometimes to get an opinion across. That's what it's for. I mean, it's communication. And if you're not communicating, and your communication might be, shake your booty, but, like that song. Or what was the other one? Celebrate good times.
Yeah.
Come on. That's a communication too. But, sometimes with singer-songwriters in particular, being serious is appropriate. Do you have others that you've done?
Well, this song I did. It's on the latest album, and I guess it's kind of a protest song. When I first wrote it, I titled it "We Can't," and then I did it for the songwriter group, and everybody said that's a terrible title, and they said, "What about Web of Lies," which was a line in the chorus, and I said, "Okay, if enough people tell me that something should be changed, I got to take their word for it and not rely on my own bad instincts." So I changed the name to Web of Lies, not even knowing that there was like an HBO show called Web of Lies. No idea. I had no idea, and I have no idea what that TV show is about. But this song, that was ending up being the title, and it's on the album. So. Awaken to the dark. There is no sun today. All the light and hope has been swept away. There is no thinking, no common sense anywhere. Shuffling zombies who just don't care. We can't be blind to the suffering. We can't turn our backs and not hear the call. We can't be blind to the suffering. We can't turn back in this web of lies. In a no-thought zone, repeating others' views. Always ready to argue and quick to accuse. It's a land of freedom for which we fight. Dare to question a leader, they'll take away your rights. We can't be blind to the suffering. We can't turn our backs and not hear the cries. We can't ignore the inhumanity. We can't get caught in the web of lies. They tell us to our faces, we can't do this, we can't do that. We can't say anything. Better keep it under our hats. We can't state our opinions. We can't show any regret. We can't sow dissension, 'cause it's a sign of disrespect. We can't be blind to the suffering. We can't turn our backs and not hear the cries. We can't ignore the inhumanity. We can't get caught in the web of lies. The web of lies. The web of lies.
Great.
Thank you.
And the HBO show, I think you should check it out. See what it is.
I guess I would have to subscribe to HBO to do that. I don't watch a lot of TV anymore.
Okay, good. Anyway, we're getting close to the end here. What I like to do toward the end is ask, what do you tell other songwriters or other people you're giving advice as to different ways to write songs, different ways to be in this business, different ways to be an open mic host, whatever you want to talk about.
To songwriters out there, just keep writing. Get some feedback. Work with other people. If you find other people you can work with, collaborating. It's a great way to open your mind to other ideas. For the performers out there, just get out and play. Play your music. Music is so important. And in this day and age where we're just surrounded by input from everything, everybody's got their phones going all the time. It's very easy just for music to fall into the background. And I know too many people now who they don't listen to music. They'll listen to talk radio on Sirius or XM or something like that, but they don't listen to music. I mentioned, the many concerts they'll go to, and they'll think, oh, you go to a lot of concerts. Well, I don't go to that many concerts, but people that are not listening to music, they're not going out listening to music. There are so many places to be able to do that. And so whether you're a player or just a listener, music is out there.
And people complain about the price of concert tickets. Well, only the concerts that are at like TD Garden are expensive. There's lots of very inexpensive concerts locally. Like at the Hearing Room, you can hear stuff for $15 or $10. People will come here and play, and they're amazing. You'd be surprised. You don't know their name, but you're going to buy their CD after the show probably, so you should come check it out.
Well, hopefully they're going to buy the CDs. These days, not a lot of people are buying CDs anymore. They're streaming music on all the platforms that are online, which makes it great that you can listen to any possible song that's been recorded that way. Pretty much, they're all available somewhere streaming, but the artists aren't seeing any money from that. The amount of money that an artist gets from a stream are hundredths of a cent. So it's not until that artist gets up to the stage of Neil Young or Taylor Swift or somebody that they're getting millions of plays and hence getting tens of thousands of dollars from it. The only people making lots of money from streaming are the streaming sources themselves.
Unfortunately, that seems to be the way things are at the moment.
And for musicians, for the people who play, and I strongly encourage everybody to get out there and play, but for the up-and-coming people, the people who want to try to make a living, the way you do it these days is by gigging, by playing gigs, and not taking free gigs, not playing for free. Your time and your talent is worth money. Get out there and play, make some money doing it, and you'll make more gigging once a month than you'll ever do with CD sales these days.
Right. So why don't we pick one last song, and then we'll finish up.
Okay, one more from the new album.
Okay.
This is another one that came from one of the prompts at the songwriting group. I didn't, because the name of the album is Love and War, and I thought, I don't have a song that actually has the word love in it. And, I had some songs about love, but nothing that had the title. And then the prompt came up that write a song a little different way than you normally do. My normal song structure is what you typically hear on the radio, which is a verse, a chorus, a verse, a chorus, a bridge or an instrumental, and then a final chorus to end it. So in this song, it's basically a verse, a bridge, and another verse with a refrain line. So this song is called Peace and Love.
Okay.
Jimmy was a good kid, excelled at everything he did, never missed a home on his paper route, every merit badge as an Eagle Scout. Captain of his school football team, living the teenage American dream. When his country gave him the call, he said to his friends, peace and love to you all. Did 2 tours across the sea, fighting a faceless enemy. Kept his platoon away from harm, took some shrapnel in his arm. Got married, had a boy, spitting image, pride and joy. Again his country gave him the call. He told his family, peace and love to you all. Jimmy went off to fight another war, not really sure what it all was for, but he wasn't so lucky this time. Took a round of bullets near his spine. Jimmy never made it back home, his whereabouts unknown. In his family's minds he still stands tall, his memorial plaque engraved. Peace and love to you all. Peace and love to you all. Peace and love to you all.
Great. So thanks, Mike, for coming and talking to us and playing music for the podcast. Do you have anything you want to plug right now? Or?
I thank you, Aaron, for inviting me here to the hearing room to do the Woodshed podcast tonight. Just remember the open mics that are out there. Get out there, listen. If you don't play, go out and listen to some local people who play. There's an open mic in your neighborhood. Probably. Go get out there and listen to some music. And if you're a player, get out and play your music so others can hear it.
Yeah, and get out to the Muddy Waters open mic and the Liquid Therapy when it comes back. So,
yeah, thank you.
All right, so that's it for this podcast. Remember that the Hearing Room is looking for members, and we are trying to make ourselves sustainable by having people who come here already to help support the place. And we have had a lot of very generous donations, and we are blessed with a lot of people who really love this room and this place and this organization. So please come join us and check it out. At hearingroom.net, you can check out more of the details. And also, we want to thank Greenville Junction Shop. That's Greenville, Greenville, Junction, Junktion, Shoppe, Shoppe. The Greenville Junction Shop has repurposed household items, electronics, clothing, and various other things that you would find curbside or at estate sales. And they repurpose them, fix them up, and resell them to you. And they are usually very good, and they are much less expensive than buying something new, and you can often find a great treasure there at Greenville Junction Shop. They can be found on Facebook, and you should definitely check them out. And also, they will announce eventually that they have a website, but you can look at the items they're selling on Facebook. And we've been speaking with Mike Birch tonight, and that's been a great pleasure, and we thank him for coming. And we have, I think, Carl Beverly coming up on Thursday, so please listen in for that, and have a great few days. If you start with